My name is Josh, and welcome to Hide and Seek Archives, a podcast where we talk about things supernatural, cryptid, or unexplained. And welcome, everybody. Welcome to Hide and Seek Archives. Today we have a very special guest. We have Jeremy Sanborn, and of course my co-host and my father, Todd Parsons. Welcome, Jeremy.
Hey, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being here. Man, if you don't mind, can you give us a little background, your history, and what you do, and how you got into the subject and so forth?
All right. So I'll start from the beginning. My father, Jeremy Sanborn, who I also do research with, when I was a kid, he had a library, and there was just my height. You know, I could just go walk up to him, pick books out. And he had all sorts of books, from ghosts to Sasquatch to lake monsters, like Bernard Hallman's book there. I forget the title though. And there's actually not a memory I have where I didn't know what Sasquatch or Loch Ness monster was, and that's thanks to him. And so I just remember being a little kid and seeing the old pictures. A lot of them have been proven fake by now, but just thinking that wow, there's a dinosaur swimming around in a lake in Scotland, or there's a hairy monster running around in the woods. So it was just intriguing right from the get. And so I nowadays I do Sasquatch research quite frequently, actually. I went yesterday out in an area, and then I traveled a bit today, and I was going to go check out a new area, but I wasn't able to. I'll have to go tomorrow morning. And I've also been involved in a few expeditions up to Lake Champlain, looking for Champ, America's Loch Ness monster. I'm a certified scuba diver, so it's been scuba certified since I was 15. I'm 39 now, and so that comes in handy. Looking for lake monsters.
That's awesome. Did you when you got into research and so forth, did you get into Sasquatch later, or did you start doing Sasquatch research early on, or were you doing other research on other cryptids?
It started more with the paranormal, kind of like a ghost hunt, I guess you'd call it. With my father, we'd go to old cemeteries and take pictures, and this is before even digital cameras and stuff. So started with that, and then I always went and thought that Sasquatch was more Pacific Northwest when I was growing up.
Yeah.
And you started looking more into it and seeing reports about Ohio, and I never thought Massachusetts though until I got a call from my father again one morning saying that he was on the BFRO website, and that he saw that there was an individual who went and had an experience with his wife and actually cast some prints. And I'm sure you guys know of Ronnie LeBlanc from Expedition Bigfoot and stuff. Well, he's actually from this area, Leominster, and there's where they found these tracks. The place is actually called Monsterland, believe it or not, and it's called that because in the 1940s, excuse me, my dog's crawling on me. In the 1940s, there was a sighting of a upright hairy hominid, and there's things about people going missing and stuff, but I don't know if that's 100% true. But people from just your average hiker to a police sergeant saw a Sasquatch supposedly in this area when he was bow hunting. And so literally this place is 10 minutes from my house. So I ended up going and checking it out. And that's when I first started noticing tree structures and stick structures and stuff. And you know, I'm a hunter as well, and so I've pretty much grown up running around the woods. And I had never gone and noticed these in other forests before. You know, and a lot of stick structures and tree structures can be, you know, explained very easily. You know, sometimes you just look up and, you know, that branch broke off from there, you know, or the tree fell and it landed like this. Yeah. And just a lot of stuff I couldn't go and, you know, just explain or, you know, write off so easily. And, you know, that started it. That's how I went and I actively got into researching Sasquatch.
So when did you have your first experience?
It was, I know the day, it was January 24th. It was my father's birthday. I can't recall the exact year. I think it was 2010, 2011. And me and my brother, we decided to go for a hike. And it had just snowed the night before. We had about 6 inches of snow, and it was just, you know, pristine. It was beautiful. And the only tracks out there were just a lone coyote. And we were walking along, and, you know, just we were talking. And then all of a sudden, off to our right, these two extremely loud knocks. I mean, you could call them whacks. And they weren't like, you know, knock, knock. They were like whap, whap. And stopped us in our tracks. And then further on down the hill, we heard what sounded like two rock clacks in response. And another little bit of history about this area is that back in the 1750s, there was a settlement that didn't take for some reason. No one knows why, you know, it didn't end up surviving, but they called it No Town. And so there's a lot of stone walls running through the woods, you know, that's all overgrown by now. But so, you know, heard that. And then we couldn't see anything, though. We were looking around. We were heading back. And that was when, you know, it was the first vocalization I've ever heard. And it was 3 whoops. And the last one was more shrill and higher in volume. And so I'm thinking there has to be people. So I actually ran ahead, looked around the corner of the trail. There was no people at all. And just to try to like debunk it, you know, I knew that there was a little swamp nearby that, you know, I'm thinking maybe it froze over and air bubbles are escaping from it. And no, it was all slush. So you know, and, you know, no one else was out there. The snow was still perfect on the way back, except for our tracks and the coyote tracks. So that was my first real experience that went and, you know, grabbed me and kind of told me that, yeah, there's something to this, you know?
Yeah.
So did the whoops sound like they were pretty close, or did they sound far away?
Oh no, they're rather close. They were pretty loud too, but you know, I'd say probably like maybe they're off to our left as we were heading back down the trail, and I don't know, I can't really judge the distance, but they're pretty loud.
Wow.
Now, is that one of the areas that you continue to do research?
Yes, yeah, I do. We've had some pretty good results up in there. It went really quiet for like 4 years. There was nothing really new happening, no sightings being reported. But me and my brother, it was 2012, in July of 2012, and we actually cast a print from up in there, about 14 and a half inches long. And
Is that the one you sent me a picture of?
Yeah, the one with my ugly foot next to it in comparison.
Okay. That's a good size one.
Yeah. And how it was, we got very lucky. You know, you're lucky finding a Sasquatch print anyways, but it was like there's a dried up creek bed, and it forms large, you know, like mud holes when it dries up. And there's a way you can get across it from, you know, like a log, you know, that fell over. And whatever this was, it was like it tried to jump from one side to the other and just didn't quite make it. It was just that one print way over on the far side. And we were able to follow some impressions, you know, that, you know, they weren't definitive enough to even cast. But we were able to follow them a little bit. Yeah, there's one of the impressions that we went and found. We didn't cast that one actually, but we didn't have any plaster on us.
It's very cool. Now,
Those
do you did I see that you do photography as well, or
yeah,
you do wild?
I do wildlife photography, landscape, underwater, water underwater. That's one of my passions. I got the if you watch Shark Week, you see him with the little trays with the lights and stuff. Yeah, I'm pretty into it.
That's cool. So a lot of the different states you mentioned earlier, was that for specific type photography, or was that for Bigfoot research, or just a little everything? You just get out there and whatever happens.
Yeah, a little bit of everything. Traveling through those areas that I mentioned, like Georgia, Tennessee, Pennsylvania, New York, Vermont. I've done a little research down in Florida too. But it's just if I travel to an area and because you never know where you might go and come across some form of evidence, even if it's not even a really huge size patch of woods. If you look on a map, you see that a lot of these greenways, they're connected through corridors or power lines, all sorts of things. I mean, from Massachusetts you could get down to Georgia just by hiking on the AP.
Yeah, that's very cool. Well, so tell us about some of the other experiences you've had when you've been out doing photography at different locations and so forth.
Well, doing photography and stuff. I pretty much would go anywhere that I always got a camera on me, no matter what, in some form or another. Whether it's just a point and shoot and stuff, and anything that goes and catches my eye. Just go walking through the woods and you catch how the sun's coming through the trees a certain way. So I'm always snapping pictures. It's just going through them afterwards that's a pain. But just going out to there's a area that I went and I didn't plan on doing any Sasquatch nothing or photography. I just took a chance and went for a hike one day and found this really cool area where you got to go up this huge ridge to get to and stuff. And I ended up making a little camp up there. And I was actually camping up there with my girlfriend at the time this past April. And now, there's a pack of coyotes up there. But there's one little thing that sticks out about these coyotes is that every time I've heard them, there is the deepest, loudest coyote call I ever heard that starts them off. It sounds almost like your, typical gray wolf would sound like, but we don't have wolves in Massachusetts. And it starts, and then the coyotes yip and yap, and then it goes again, and everything stops. And so just hearing that, I'm like, oh, that's a little different. And one night I was sitting with her on the log. We were just, checking out the fire. I don't drink, so it wasn't like we were drinking or anything. And all of a sudden, to our right and very close, this howling scream is the best way I can compare it to, or you can come close to describing it. And it went on for like 10 seconds at least. And then at the very end of it, it was like 3 barred owl hoots. But, owls don't make a blood-curdling, howling scream, before they hoot. And it was crazy. And all these things go through your head. You're like, fox at first, and then even like human, because it sounded like almost like a sound that a human would make, except for the the lung capacity and power that this call has. And my hand got squeezed pretty tight that night, and she was actually wondering if I had my brother hike up there to scare us. I'm like, yeah, my brother's gonna go and hike up a big ridge at 11:30 at night just to scare you.
Yeah, exactly. Now that's fascinating. It's interesting that you mentioned that, because I've experienced both of those, and you hear that a lot with witnesses in where you hear talk about hearing a scream, and then the coyotes kind of chime in, and you kind of hear them mixed in with the screams, and I mean with the coyotes, and I've heard that a lot, and
Yeah.
I've experienced the same thing with the owls as well, where it started off as an owl and ended in a scream.
Yeah, this was just the opposite. It was a scream and stuff, and the owl right afterwards, you know.
Yeah,
And you know, as you guys, I'm sure know, you know, some people think that, you know, Sasquatch goes and mimics these animal calls, you know, from coyotes to owls. Some people even think that coyotes might even run with like packs of coyotes and stuff, you know, either for food availability to steal the kills, or who knows.
yeah, exactly. I've heard the same theory.
Mhm.
Hard to say.
So
Anything's possible, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, anything.
I've heard weird. I say weird, but I've heard things where they've mimicked humans. Certain things, like for example, somebody will go out and call their dog in every day, and eventually they start mimicking that.
Yep.
Yeah. I've had one whistle back at me. I'm pretty sure.
All right.
Yeah. It was me, my brother Ryan, and a friend of ours, and we were on it was a group expedition actually that we got invited to, and yeah, we were sitting on a log. It was like 3 a.m, and a friend did a whistle, and about 5 seconds after he did it, a perfect mimic. And then next thing you know, I was the only person sitting on the log because everyone else was running. And, yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's neat.
Yeah.
That is. So the pictures of the tree structures that you sent, was that in Massachusetts?
Yes. I believe most of them were in Massachusetts. Some of them could have been in Vermont, but I'm pretty sure most of them were Massachusetts.
Well, that's some big ones, yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's interesting.
Yeah, and you know, when you see where the stump or the root should be, and that's tipped way up in the air, and there's no stump or root fall anywhere near, and you know, then you see things kind of wedged up in between them or twist, and you know, you got to go and ask yourself, like, you know, what could have caused this?
Yeah.
And then, like I said, you don't see these type of things in every wood that you go in, you know.
Yeah, that's
Right.
pretty tightly grouped right there.
Yeah, and you know, when I go out, I try to get as far away from, you know, trails and stuff as I can. You know, I'm also into, you know, bushcraft and survival and primitive survival especially, and so I love going off trail. When I do a lot of solo investigating, and I especially at night, and you know, going out there and just shutting off my lights and just sitting there and listening to, you know, what's going on around me, hoping that, you know, maybe I might get lucky enough for something to walk by, or maybe something checking me out, you know, because there are cases of them being very curious about human activity. And actually, speaking of that, this past winter, I went and I was setting up a couple game cams one night when I was by myself, and you know, like I was climbing over, pretty much belly crawling over Mountain Laurel and stuff. You know, if I see an obstacle, I'm going through it because hopefully no one else will want to go through it, so deter people from coming near my cameras. And I was setting it up, and I ended up setting it up upside down. So I'm resetting it, and it took me, you know, a few minutes and stuff. So I'm thinking, you know, well, people go and say that they're very curious, so perhaps maybe one decided to check me out. So I got my headlamp and my flashlight, and I'm, you know, looking for eye shine. And all of a sudden, to my back left, this incredibly loud, like a stomp. I mean, it was loud. It wasn't like, you know, a deer hoof, you know, making nice crisp breaks or anything. This sounded like a stomp. I mean, I heard the mountain laurel branches breaking, some of the snow crushing. It was loud. And I turned around, and, you know, it startled me enough where I turned around and I actually was like, hey, thinking, you know, my worst fear, someone followed me out there and is some whack job or something, you know. And nothing. I couldn't see anything. I couldn't hear anything else. I'm looking around, and then I ended up making my way back to the main trail. And as I was heading down the main trail, I kept on hearing something off my kind of back right. Like I catch a snap or, brush against, the foliage, the mountain laurel. There's tons of mountain laurel in that area. And I kept on looking and I couldn't go and see anything. And then I just stopped for, I don't know why I stopped. And I turned around and I shined my light and I caught this eye shine, this pair of eye shine. And it would go from 2, reflections to me to 1 to none. And now it could have been an owl, maybe, it's pretty high off the ground. And then it just disappeared. And I was trying to get my my cell phone actually, get everything, coordinated so I could get a picture of it. And to no avail. It was all blurry. And I continued on. And now this is the only time that I've ever caught a glimpse of something physical that I can't go and explain. I heard something to my right. I turned very quickly and disappearing behind a stand of trees, I caught this grayish, very large object. Like I'd say, it reminded me of the size of like a refrigerator, just like how big it was. And it was upright and it just disappeared behind the trees. And I caught like from mid back down its butt. I didn't see like legs definitively though. And it went behind the trees and, I froze in my tracks and I'm trying to listen. I couldn't hear nothing. At that moment, you got this excitement, but also a little bit of fear, you're out there by yourself and, it's middle of the night. And so, you think about like the missing 411 cases and stuff.
Yeah.
But, so right at that moment, I got a phone call from my friend who was picking me up at the trailhead. And, he's like, "Yo, do you want me to stay on the phone with you?" I'm like, "No, I won't be able to go and hear what's going on." I made it out of the woods alive. And the only other thing that happened at night was I heard some branches, some brush breaking off to my left as I was leaving the area. But I don't know, it was like a stone gray in color, maybe a little darker gray, but it was interesting.
Let me ask you this, Jeremy. A couple things. How far, when you saw that thing, how far was that from where you saw the eye shine?
From when I saw the eye shine that night?
Yeah.
Probably only a couple hundred yards.
Oh, okay. So, yeah.
Yeah.
What color was eye shine?
It was actually, it wasn't red. It was like a shade below red, like almost like a orangey kind of red. It wasn't green or anything.
And what this incident you're talking about, is that the pictures you sent me too?
No, that's actually from.
Oh, that's something else. Okay.
Yeah, actually, that was in the same area, but a couple miles away. And I didn't notice the pictures of the eye shine. I didn't notice the eye shine when I was taking those pictures. I was just focusing on that snap. But we were also that night when we were heading back down the trail. I was with 4 people. I was with my brother Ryan, who I do a lot of investigating with, and a couple other guys. One of the guys was Bill Penning, who found the tracks I was speaking about beforehand. And I like to stay, when I'm in a group, I like to stay back because a lot of people will walk through leaves and stuff or be chit-chatting and you just can't hear anything. And so I was hanging back and I could hear something off of my back right again, making, step in and, the occasional branch snap. And then I would stop and it would stop. And then my brother came back to see why I was so far behind. And I'm like, well, just take a couple steps with me. And I say, stop. And we did, he listened to me and then he heard it too. And then we came to that sapling that was broke and just started taking pictures and then noticed later on, like, oh, hey, what's this? Looks like a couple pairs of eye shine. Now, I can't say it's definitive eye shine, but, yeah, it looks like, to me, it looks like, to the back right, there's possibly a few of them. It could also be owls. It could be owls. Who knows? I don't know about owls hanging out in a group, but I didn't get to see the actual thing that was making them.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That's not something you catch very often.
Yeah, that
And
is.
yeah, I was just taking pictures of that sapling because, it was just weird how it was snapped, just that one thing broken, there was nothing above it to fall on it, nothing, no debris around it or anything. So we were checking that out. We didn't notice what was behind it.
Yeah. Would you say that's about 6 feet, 7 feet?
Yeah, I'd say,
The
yeah,
eye
I'd say
shine or the tree?
No,
the
I'm
tree,
sorry. The tree. Yeah, tree
the
break.
tree probably about chest height, 5.5 feet tall. No,
Okay.
5 feet tall.
Okay.
So what's behind it, probably only like maybe 6 feet, one off to the far right, a little bit taller, but it's almost like one's peeking up behind the tree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, it's always dirt. It's always right where the light stops, They just can't
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very distinct in this picture.
These are the ones you said you would see 2 eyes, then 1 eye, and then no eye.
No. I
Oh,
wasn't able to get a good picture of that night. Everything was coming up blurry because they were farther away than this. And I have a pretty powerful headlamp, and just trying to coordinate my flashlights and my phone, and it just, I didn't get any. There's one that's possible, but it's not definitive enough for me to go
Yeah.
and be like, "Hey, check this out, it's eye shine." Just
Yeah.
not definitive.
I'm curious. Have you ever experienced any type of thing that you would put in the paranormal category while you've been out in the woods, or say strange lights, or anything like that?
I've seen like only best way I could describe it would be like shadows. Um, and and you almost go and think it's a trick of the eye until you see it a few more times. I've seen stuff like that in the woods.
Okay.
As far as lights and stuff, I really haven't. Although I've heard of a lot of people who have seen strange lights in the woods. Orange lights that'll travel overhead and then drop down into the forest. All sorts of stuff. I've had paranormal experiences outside of the woods in houses.
Outside of the woods, as in like inside of a home, or
Yeah. I had a few. It actually kind of went and turned me off of the whole actively seeking ghost.
Oh, is that right?
oh really?
Yeah. The first one, I was 16, and my parents were going through some hard times. My mother had just had a total hip replacement, and so she wasn't able to work, and we ended up losing our house. And so we ended up, me and my brother had never seen this new house we were moving to, and it was an old farmhouse. It was pretty cool, but it just gave off a super negative vibe. I don't know. My parents they got divorced there. There was so much anger in that house, and there was just oppression and even depression. My stepfather, my stepfather now, wasn't at the time. He's kind of sensitive to things, and he couldn't even get past the kitchen without running out puking his brains out. And so one night, my mother went and called, and they had the old pull down lights, old farmhouse. Oh, wait, hold on. I jumped ahead. When me and my brother first got to this house, we went downstairs to check out the basement. And now when I say this, I kid you not, everything I'm telling you is true, but just like out of a freaking movie, there is a pentagram in black paint, the size of a dinner table, in the middle of the basement floor.
Oh,
And,
wow.
Yeah, and all the walls to the basement, they're all like stone walls. It was an old house. And we ended up talking to the neighbors, and they said that the people who lived there before, that their son was rather odd. He poured gasoline in a circle around property and lit it on fire one night, all sorts of things. And so, so there's this huge pentagram on the basement floor, immediately me and my brother like, where'd you move us to?
Yeah.
And so to get back to what I was saying, I was reaching for the pull down lamp. I went up to my bedroom and talked to my mother, and I'm reaching for the pull down lamp. And I turn around, and at the foot of my brother's bed, right by the door, was like a grayish shape. It was humanoid shape. Like you could see the head and the shoulders, but you couldn't make out anything like any features. And I literally tried to kick the thing. I tried throwing a sternum kick at this thing. That real. And I remember going for the door and thinking to myself, it's right next to me, and just pretty much falling down the stairs and going up to my father, blubbering like an idiot, And he's like, what happened? And I'm like, ghost. And so it was real enough for me to try to kick it. So
Yeah.
And then this was 2013. I moved into this house on a road called Church Street. I didn't like the place to begin with. My girlfriend at the time loved it. Nice tall ceilings, French doors for the bedroom, all this and that. But I had a bad feeling about it. The French doors looked like they had locked a Great Dane in the bedroom and ripped the doors to shreds on the inside. And just things just started going wrong right from the get-go, relationship-wise. I went and one night I was getting undressed, and I noticed before bed, I had 3 good-sized, gouges going down the inside of my right thigh. And I'm thinking, I didn't see those this morning when I was getting dressed. I didn't feel them happen. I didn't, and I'm thinking like maybe my dog scratched me when I was in bed last night, but I didn't remember seeing them. And then the next day I woke up and my back felt like somebody had taken a baseball bat to it. It was rather excruciating. And I asked my girl, what's wrong with my back? She's like, oh, nothing. So 3 days go by, and the third day I'm getting out of bed, and she's like, what the hell's wrong with your back? And I'm like, what are you talking about? She said, there's nothing wrong with it. She's like, you got bruises all over your back. You could see like what looked like knuckle marks and even a footprint on my back.
Really?
Yeah. I was urinating blood for 2 weeks, and it was literally like looked like cranberry juice. And I remember one night I was sitting on my bed. I was by myself, and I had my dog sitting at the foot of my bed and my cat. And they're both looking at me, and I'm like, I got a weird feeling like, why are they looking at me like this? And I looked up, and there was the French doors, and they were parted. And on the left side of the French door, now I swear that this, either I hallucinated this, but I swear this is what I saw. And only about 2.5 feet tall, there's this thing glaring at me, curled behind the door, like, peeking at me, grimacing. And its ears were, they're rather large, like gremlins, but not that big. They were smaller. Yeah. You could see the claws on its fingers. I didn't count how many fingers it had. It had teeth, so I know that because it was grimacing at me. And its skin, like if you looked like, if you take a paper shopping bag, grocery bag, and you crunch it all up, and then you pull it out again, it's got all those wrinkles and creases in it. Well, that's what its skin looked like, but its ears were furry. And, I saw it saw me, and then it was gone. I didn't see it run or anything. It was like I said, it was only about 2.5 feet tall. And so I'm freaking out, and of course my dog is staring at me. My cat was looking in the direction and then turned and stared at me. And I got out of there. I waited for someone to come home. I didn't want to go back in the house. And I ended up getting out of there as soon as I could. I ended up.
I would have too.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
It was like I was wondering if I was going insane, to be honest with you. Like I'm like, what is happening? But I remember the Conjuring came out, the first Conjuring movie.
Yeah.
I'm watching it and I'm listening to Ed Warren's character there, and he's like, yeah, the things about demonic, this and that, like, you got infestation and then next step's possession. I'm like, oh great,
Yeah.
I'm already being beaten and seeing the things. Great.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So,
That's spooky, man.
I'll tell you, it was I was more scared then than I have ever been sitting in the woods by myself looking for
Yeah.
Sasquatch. I mean, I'll go diving in a lake with a supposed lake monster. I'll go out in the middle of the night looking for Sasquatch. But as far as like anything that I consider possibly demonic, I'm staying away from.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I get it. I'm with you.
Good plan. Good plan.
Yeah.
Well, I'm interested to hear about your diving. You've been diving from quite a few years. Do you have any interesting stories regarding that?
yeah. I have tons of, dive stories I can share, but going anything that has to do with cryptozoology and stuff, Lake Champlain, of course. A few years back, I think it was 2017. I was on Facebook one evening, and a fellow researcher went, and I hadn't met her before. She asked me if I would be interested in diving in Lake Champlain, because she does research up there and hydrophone work and stuff like that. And so I'm thinking, oh yeah, that'd be great. And I ended up going up there. I met a few other researchers, Scott Marius, Woodran Ginnis. They're both deceased now. I met friends with that's how I met Alexander Petikov, and was involved with filming for Small Town Monsters, the In the Trail of Champ mini series.
Okay.
Trail of Champ, nothing. And so fell in love with the place. Nothing eventful happened my very first trip, but cruised around the lake, and it's amazing. I mean, the lake is 114 miles long, 12 miles wide, 400 feet deep. It's a huge body of water. It's the sixth largest body of water in America. And so I ended up going up there last year to film another documentary with a friend of mine, Crack St. Laurent, and my brother Ryan. And we saw Scott Martis and some research with him for a day, checked out a bunch of spots where there had been previous sightings. And I was supposed to be getting ready for a dive over by the Sable River. And the thing with the Sable River is there's a piece of footage called the Bodette footage. And this documentary that we were filming was the story behind the Bodette footage is that there is more to this footage than what they've shown. It was on ABC, Good Morning America, back in 2006. And then it disappeared for a while. And now a lawyer owns it, who's involved in the entertainment somehow. And I know people who have seen it, who through lawyers and money were able to go and view it. And so the whole point of this documentary was try to go and push these guys to hopefully release the footage. And now back in 2002, the show Monster Quest was up there filming, and they had Liz Von Morgenthaler with them, who works for fauna research and communication. It's the study of bioacoustic echolocation signatures from marine mammals and stuff like that. And they had set up hydrophones, and she actually recorded an echolocation signature in Lake Champlain that closely resembles a beluga whale or an orca, but just slightly off. There's no beluga whales or orcas swimming around Lake Champlain, and there is really no freshwater body of water besides rivers or river dolphins habitat that you hear echolocation. And so I was doing a prelim dive because when I travel, I like to rent gear rather than carry all mine around. It just takes up a lot of room and it's heavy as hell. And so rented some gear from the dive shop up there, and me and my brother, we were just going through dive check the day before, and so we're in the water, and the day before my brother had mentioned hearing some clicks, but I didn't hear him. And so I'm on the bottom, he's up on the surface, I can see his silhouette, and I start hearing this weird click, and I thought I might have had like an air bubble in my ear or something. And I looked at him, he pointed at his ears. Now, like with scuba, it's rather loud. You got your inhale and the regulators, working to provide you with the breath. then your exhaust bubble's coming out, so it's just loud. So I surfaced and I ditched my gear and just floated around with my mask and snorkel. And we listened to this thing for probably close to an hour. It was after dark by the time we got out of the water. And there's fish actually make noises. And there's fish called drumfish that'll make a weird sound in the water that hydrophones can pick up. But you can't hear fish sound. Some people call them fish farts with just your ear. You need scientific equipment, listening devices. And we're listening to these clicks and clacks, and and the only way I can go and describe it is like if you went and heard a dolphin or a beluga whale at an aquarium. It was unbelievable. We actually swam. It was coming from out in the lake. We were in a small bay called Arnold Bay, which is just south of Button Bay, which is one of the bays where this Von Muggenthal lady got some of these recordings. And so it's coming from the mouth of the bay. We actually at one point started swimming out towards the mouth, and whatever this was, it got a lot louder and like more direct towards us. I don't think it swam towards us. I think it just directed its echolocation on us to see what we are. And because all these echolocation recordings are from actually rather small bays, one of them is a good sized bay. Fort Farm Bay or Town Farm Bay is rather large. But my theory is that when the human presence dies down, boat traffic dies down, when it's starting to get towards evening and dark, these animals they come out to hunt. It's a lot safer for them, and plus maybe they're nocturnal to begin with. And they'll go to the mouth of these small bays and project their echolocation signatures inward, see if there's, any schools of fish, 'cause in my mind, it would be easier to ambush these fish in a smaller bay rather than chase them around this, gigantic lake.
Yeah.
And so that's a theory I definitely want to check out. I actually haven't seen Champ. I was with somebody one time who claimed that what we were looking at was these animals. But I'm sorry. I thought I was waiting to heard some clicking. I thought when you might have been starting to play something. I'm sorry.
No.
Yeah. So she claimed that we were seeing one of these animals, and to be honest, guys, all I saw was a floating log of driftwood. She claims she's seen Champ like 19 times, so I can picture why now.
What is it? What is the exact description of Champ?
It varies. You got people who say it's your poster card, long neck, swan position, type thing like a plesiosaur.
Oh, okay.
But there's also people who claim that it's more serpentine. It varies in movement from horizontal undulations to, side to side, side to side. Vertical undulations, horizontal side to side. There's a lot of different descriptions for it. Just like, you get with Loch Ness, Lake Okanagan, So, and, I get asked a lot, like, well, what do I personally think it is? And I can't put a direct answer to that. Like there's the plesiosaur theory. There's even a theory that it's a Tanystropheus, which is this reptile from the Triassic period before they even cataloged as dinosaurs. With this immensely long neck and tail that wasn't even really an aquatic animal. Some people think that. I don't know why. Eels to seals, all sorts of things. But there's no evidence that plesiosaurs went and gave off an echolocation signature. It's a possibility that over 65 million years of this thing supposedly being extinct, it developed echolocation. I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. I haven't followed. I used your story early on and how you got into everything. Is very similar to mine, and I remember following Loch Ness a bunch as a kid, but I haven't heard anything regarding Loch Ness in years. I don't know if there's still research or anything that's going on there, or
Yeah,
still sightings.
yeah. There's still sightings. I think there was like 9 so far this year. There's people go and there was one like a picture. Of course, it was too good to be true, and that was because it was fake. Um, but there's still people over there, Adrian Shrine, stuff like that, Andy McGrath, Dick Rayner. They're all still doing research over there.
Okay.
Yeah, and one of the reasons why I did not, or the reason why I did not go and get this echolocation on film is because, as I mentioned, I was doing a prelim dive and I was getting my gear all configured and making sure everything fit right. I figured I'm not going to go and bring my camera down on this dive because it's going to be a quick dive and I'm going to be doing the main dive tomorrow and I don't want to be messing around with my gear and the camera. So I didn't bring my freaking camera with me. Of all the dives, I'm not going to bring my camera.
Yeah.
It always works out that way, don't it?
Never again. No matter what.
It's like people, who have Sasquatch sightings that have cameras on them, and then people always ask, well, why didn't you get a picture of it? But most of them don't even think about the camera in their hand.
Yeah, you're seeing this, I mean, I could only imagine you're seeing this thing that doesn't supposedly exist, and here it is.
Yeah.
I'm looking at you or walking away in front of you, and even just like say you got your cell phone out, right, and you got it out, and you see something like even a deer, you go just to go and unlock it and get to the camera and all this and that, and then get in focus and take a picture. Sometimes the moment's gone. Like that,
the fleeting glimpse. Yeah,
I know. When I had my sighting at night, I had a night vision psionics on me, and I was holding it, and it was on, but I never thought to lift it up and record, and then it was over.
Yeah, you're so transfixed by that moment. Huh? You're like, I've even heard some people say, like, do I even want to go and take my eyes off it long enough to go and get the camera working, or do I just want to go and like kind of absorb this?
Yeah. I didn't even realize what had happened until it had left.
Yeah.
And walked off the trail.
Takes you a few seconds to process stuff like that,
Yeah.
And this is for people who are out, we're looking for it and stuff. And, imagine just the person who walk in unbeknownst to them, they come across, a Sasquatch and stuff.
Yeah.
And then, oh, why do you get a picture? Yeah, you try.
Yeah, exactly. I know, and that's the funniest things. You always hear people say, "Well, there should be more pictures and all that," but in most situations, I mean, almost every scenario, the chance of taking a picture is almost slim to none. And then, like I said, you're probably not going to even think about it.
Yeah. I mean, I always hope that if the day ever comes, that I'll go and think to go and lift up my camera, take a picture. But who knows? I might go and be just so shocked and in awe of what's
right.
occurring right here in front of me that your camera, what the hell is that?
Yeah, I think about that all the time, whether I would remember or not, because I can't say that I would.
I can't.
And notice a lot of the footage that you see of Sasquatch is after the fact that they've seen it already. They just thought, oh, I need to be recording this.
Yeah.
You get somewhere it's already heading off in the brush.
Exactly.
I had somebody just asking me about the PG film and if I thought that was real, and I'm like, based on all what Gimlin's testimony about, like, he had his rifle trained on it, that turn that does and stuff. It's just and if they were perpetrating a hoax, they got pretty creative with it. They put breast on it and everything. These guys were rodeo cowboys back in 1967.
Yeah, especially for the time era.
And even today, when you see hoaxes and people that put out stuff on YouTube, I mean, that try to do a spook or try to make a spook, none of them ever look real to me. I mean, you can immediately tell they're not real. Yeah. And in comparison, the Gimlin film does not look. I mean, just the definition and everything, the muscle, what looks like muscle movement and all that. It's just, especially now they got the stable. Before they got it stabilized, now they got that stabilized video. Is really cool.
Yeah,
You can really get a good idea on it, and man, I just don't see, especially back then, how anybody could have faked a suit that well.
Yeah, we can't even replicate, that. I'm not going to call it a suit because I don't believe it's a suit, but we can't replicate that even now with, four-way stretch spandex didn't come out to the mid '80s, and here this is, this pattern is stretching over the muscles and stuff, and you can see the muscles and just the mass of that, that creature. I mean, it was big. It was and like you said, people go and they put this stuff on YouTube, and then you can instantly tell it's a fake just by how the fur looks or how it's hanging. You can just tell. And here is this from October 10th, 1967, and we still can't go and say that debunk that as a hoax. Yeah,
exactly.
And they got it as it was walking away because like the horses spooked and stuff, and he
got thrown. Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, the original footage is super shaky. I mean, if it was if you would think if they were going to hoax it, they would have purposely had a little bit more stabilized than what you were seeing, because it was not stabilized at all.
No, he wasn't. It wasn't like he was braced on a stump or anything. And nice, clear, unshaky. No, he was. He was running and just. Yeah, I just think that if they were going to do a hoax, they would have just gone and I think they would have gone and been that creative and came up with all the stuff that goes into making that that film look so authentic to me. Plus, they were just a couple of rodeo cowboys and a rodeo cowboy and a cowboy. They didn't have a huge budget, to go and and plus, we weren't even priming. Science even, like how did these guys go and notice Sagittarial crest and all this and that, and it's very easy for people to go and say, oh yeah, that's just a guy in a suit, but no, if you really look at it, no, it's not.
Right. Yeah, there's very few videos that are that, you get that much of a visual, and there's another one out there that I think it's a pretty good visual, is that Paul Freeman footage.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That to me looks quite authentic to me, that creature.
Yeah, he's like, oh, there he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that looks like actually a rather large individual too.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it did.
Then, I think that was when Meldrum and stuff actually started looking in the footprints, was up there in the the Blue Ridge Mountains up in that area.
I think that's where your cast is from, Josh. That replica I gave you was one of the Blue Ridge casts. I think.
Cripplefoot.
Cripplefoot, what did they call it?
Yeah, I've heard of Cripplefoot.
Yeah,
and that's another thing that's amazing about when it comes to like tracks and stuff like that, is they can go, and because of how how advanced we are, scientifically now when it comes to like footprint anatomy and stuff like that we're able to go and be like, this is the same print from this individual, 600 miles, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Like the whole dermal ridge thing, I think that's still real good proof right there.
Yeah, and they don't go and run the same way like ours do. There's like vertical.
They're unique to the species. Yeah,
even on the cuts on the foot, you can see the dermal ridges growing towards the cut like you would on our feet.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, scars.
Who would think to fake something like that?
Exactly.
You can thank those dermal ridges, Joshua, for that first, when we had our first, when we had that in 2007 in Sam Houston.
Mm-hmm.
That was after Jimmy Chilcutt, the police officer out of Conroe, that was the primate print expert, for all the different primates. And he's the one that, I've heard him speak, and he spoke about the dermal ridges, Sasquatch dermal ridges, and explained why they, he felt they were authentic and all that, which was fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of what got me back into I'd kind of dropped out of the subject. And then, of course, that's about the same time that the internet was really you were starting to, just like you mentioned, Jeremy, earlier, that, we always thought early on, thought it was just a Pacific Northwest creature. I did too. And then when social media came out, or the internet and stuff, not social media, but the internet, you started, and you had these sites that had databases and so forth. That's when I started realizing they're everywhere. And then, of course, Jimmy came out and was talking about the dermal ridges, and that's what got me back into the subject. Hence, we did a backpacking trip into Sam Houston when Josh was in high school, and that's where we had an audible. We had a bunch of them whooping around, doing whoops around us when we were camped out that night.
And it went on for a while.
Yeah. And that's, people go on, how do you know it wasn't this? How do you know it wasn't that? It's like, well, if you spend enough time out in the woods, and even if you don't, when you go and hear these particular vocalizations, they don't fall into any of like the categories that you would go and think, like, here I am in Massachusetts, what goes and makes a howling, shrieking scream, and like that, you hear foxes bark, and there wasn't a fox. Don't care.
I've never heard a fox go deep.
Well, it's just like when people say, "Well, you sure that wasn't a bear?" Well, I'm not sure how you can get I don't see how you can get a bear and a Sasquatch mixed up.
No,
maybe you got just a glimpse of some hair, but if you get a good view, there's no way,
No.
You're going to get them mixed up.
I always wait, and people, because you always get the science, the mainstream scientists going and, always saying, oh, it was, identification error or misidentification. And it's like, if I went and saw, an 8-9 foot tall, upright ape, with arms hanging, and you're going to tell me I saw a black bear?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. You better get ready to talk.
Yeah.
A lot of the police reports, they always write them up as bear, when they've had the issues, when there's been aggressive Sasquatch, or encounters and stuff. They always write it up as a bear attack or a bear, It's funny.
Now we have a few minutes left, and I wanted to ask you about the footprint that you found.
Yeah.
This one, which is a really nice print.
It is a good print.
How did you come across that?
I was with my brother Ryan, and I think my father was with us that day too. And that's up in the area known as Champlain. Now, one thing that's interesting about this print is that if you look at the cast that we have, the cast kind of goes to to the right like that a little bit. Like if you flip it, it'll be and it curls like that. So it's almost kind of like maybe with the same individual possibly. But yeah, we got lucky, and that was another one. It was the only one in the trail, and it was like it had just made one step into the trail and gone off into the brush.
And is that the same area where you were seeing the eye shine?
Yeah, and that's actually right around the same time period where I went and where I get the pictures of the eye shine from back a few years back.
Now, do y'all ever do any gifting or anything like that?
Like we've never gone we've gone and left out like apple caches and stuff like that, but I've never tried anything like to the extent that some people do now.
They usually take the apples?
The apples are usually gone or chewed up on the ground, yeah.
Oh, okay. You tried peanut butter?
No, never tried peanut butter. I heard bacon too. They like bacon, according to what's his name there, Bobo or whatever.
Yeah, we've poured bacon grease into the into the fire and stuff. to try to bring them in. I mean, we've had them come in. I don't know if that was why or not, but
maybe it helped.
Yeah,
It'd make me come in.
yeah.
Yeah. I was out there strolling around. I smell some bacon cooking. I'm gonna come.
Yep.
Yeah, me too. That's funny. Yeah, that's interesting stuff. Yeah, it looks like y'all got a good area.
Yeah. Like I said, it went and it seemed like activity died down for a couple of years there for a little while, and it was but now it seems to be picking back up actually as of just 2 years ago.
Any how many different family members in that clan do you think you have out there? Have you been able to kind of figure any of that out, or?
Well, yeah, me and my brother have had this conversation actually, and based on the size of our print, we're thinking possibly that's a female. The prints that were taken by the fellow I mentioned earlier, they were actually a little bit smaller than the one that we got, and he had, I think he was able to cast 6 in total, him and Ronnie Blank.
Okay.
And they were smaller though. They were only like maybe 11 inches or so. But he said that there was smaller footprints in that area, almost like you would think a juvenile. Now, I didn't see any pictures of these or anything, so I can't go and say, I'm not going to call him a liar by any means. But so that's, possibly 3 right there. And then you think that, you probably have a large male in the area, so anywhere from probably like maybe 3 to 5. But
okay.
I think that maybe, they might have moved on for a while to a different area, and maybe now these are different ones that have come in. Like I said, the one where I believe I saw was, it was gray. It wasn't black. It wasn't brown. It was like a darkish kind of gray. Yeah. And
I know it's theorized that the gray ones might be older ones.
Yeah, and that makes sense, because just about any mammal that ages, their hair will go and fur will go and,
yeah,
they got something, more gray, more white,
Yep.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, it happens to all of us. You Sasquatch, I guess.
Yeah, that's good stuff, man. Sounds like a great area.
Just real quick, this past fall when me and my brother, we were out bow hunting, and it was early morning. We had split up, and this is an area that we actually just came across last year. And we had split up, and he was on the edge of a meadow. I went into the woods a ways, and I was just coming over this ridge when from actually in between us, from my location and his, this howling, it started off as a howl, and then it rose up into like a scream, and down into a more of a howl, and then scream, and like it's almost like it's happening like simultaneously, the howl and scream, and it scared the freaking Jesus out of me. I turned around, and I'm like, oh great, that's not a deer.
Yeah.
And I don't.
Yeah. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. I started heading back, keeping my eyes fully wide open, and my brother's coming towards me, and I notice he's licensed to carry in Massachusetts. I notice he's got his, 45 in his hand, and I'm like, yeah, he heard it too. And he asked me, he's like, that wasn't you, was it? And I'm like, oh no, that wasn't me. I couldn't do that. No way. Just that's just how long it carried on, and the power behind it. And I remember also thinking like, wow, that sounds, like a person goes through your head real quick, but just how it's like, I don't know any person that can make a sound like that.
Yeah.
We ended up hunting the rest of the day together, and we're going to the truck as we were leaving, and something let off a wail in the distance again, and it sounded like almost like a enraged, angry kind of chimpanzee kind of. That's what popped in my head.
Huh. What have you been able to pinpoint like multiple individuals from the audio sounds? Like you have some that answering others. Have you been able to like?
That
There
first,
was two or three of them or whatever.
The first experience that I had, we heard the wood knocks and then the rock clacks further on down the hill. It was like they were signaling to each other, you know?
Okay. Yeah.
That's my take on it. And
Yeah.
besides like, you know, hearing that weird howl that's kind of with the coyotes and then hearing the vocalizations later on that night, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah, I definitely believe there's something to it, though. You know,
Oh yeah.
the history of sightings going back, you know, First Nations people, Native Americans, you know, people go and say, oh, it's just mythology. Well, usually, you know, mythology starts with something, you know?
That's right. Yeah, and if you look at all the Native Americans and all their belief systems and everything they follow, it's all based on living animals.
Yeah.
So why would they have one animal mixed in there that's not real? You know?
Yeah.
Like with totem poles out in the Pacific Northwest, you know, you got bear, you got eagle, and all this, and then all of a sudden there's a Sasquatch in it, and it's like, yeah, we just threw that an imaginary creature in there just for the heck of it, you know. Everything else is
Yeah.
Why would they do that?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well, we are an hour and 5 minutes in. We'll close out for the night. Thank you so much, Jeremy, for coming on.
Hey, no, thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Really enjoyed it, man. You had some good stuff and really enjoyed the photos and stories. And, man, stay in touch. If you have anything else happen, reach out to us. We'd love to get you back on and talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you'd like, you can stay on after we end the show and chit-chat a little more.
Yeah, definitely.
And thank you, everybody, for watching.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.